Our first session today is a superstar session from a true superstar, Marion Finnegan of AWS Game Tech. Title of her talk is Know Your Players, Grow Your Game, A Guide to Live Ops in the Cloud, and I am super excited to get Marion's insights. So without further ado, take it away, Marion.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen right away and kick this off. Right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session. I'm super excited to be here. Today, we're going to have a chat about knowing your players, engaging them, and keeping them around to grow your game. Because in the end, it's always about your players enjoying the game that you've actually made for them. Before we kick it off, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Marion Finnegan, and I am Senior Business Development Manager for Game Tech at AWS. My absolute all-time favorite game was, is, and probably always will be Super Mario Bros. 3. But to be honest, I think it's Zelda Breath of the Wild that I'm putting most of my game hours in lately. Enough about me, and without further ado, let's look at a guide to live ops in the cloud. The games industry has seen an exponential growth in the past 20 years, with the last year just being the tip of the iceberg. Some would suggest that the growth of gaming is linked to the growth of the internet, which gave specifically mobile and online games a massive boost. It has also led to a significant shift from games as a product to games as a service. So from a packaged good that is played for a while to a service that with applications that we engage with over and over again. The most successful games of the past few years are mostly in that area of games as a service and have been in the top list of most successful for quite some time. And this is where live ops comes into the picture, which basically means taking care of the game. But more fundamentally, it's about what happens in the game and how players engage with it. It's about providing great experiences that evolve over time, motivating players to keep coming back and having them long-term engaged, making sure that the game becomes part of their lives. Live ops isn't anything though. Even early MUDs or multi-user dungeons used some of the same techniques as today to keep their content fresh and their players happy. It's only recently, especially with the success of games like Fortnite and Clash of Clans that embraced live ops, that there's been a lot of talk about it and attempts to give it a better definition. So here is our definition of live ops. At its heart, it's a philosophy that a game will change over time while it's live, as opposed to having to release the sequel, the expansion pack, or any new version of the game itself. Games using live ops live online and usually start their life either as a download or website rather than in the box. While it is important to acknowledge the success of the Fortnite and Clash of Clans of this world, when we talk about live ops, it's just as important to acknowledge that you don't need to be as big as Epic or have as many players as Fortnite to actually get results from incorporating live ops into your game. Butterscotch Shenanigans, for example, they have recognized that the games industry is a crowded and competitive place, and they leverage live ops practices to gain a competitive advantage by using backend automation via website APIs and serverless compute to help them locate and build daily challenges for their players. If it happens on a regular basis, on a schedule, so the players always know when to look for something new, they will keep coming back. Butterscotch Shenanigans does this on a daily basis, and that's how they keep their engagement high. Past the very basic definition of live ops being a philosophy, there are a few things you'll find pretty much in every live ops game. The game is designed and developed with live ops in mind. There is a very strong community building going on around the game. It is very common for live events to be hosted in the game. Data and analytics are absolutely crucial to make decisions about what to update and what content to deliver. And last but not least, there is content delivered constantly, often without having to update the game client binary. But enough about the philosophy. Let's talk about the tech behind it. Live ops begins long before your game is launched And the sooner you think about the technology aspects behind it, the more fun you're actually having building it, especially when it comes to player analysis and the build release cycle. We'll be looking at several different technologies today to enable live ops in your game, with a very strong focus on 3 specific ones. First, implementing analytics to help you with designing game features and monetization strategies. This is the part where you actually get to know your players. The second one is developing an integration and delivery pipeline that enables fast deployment of all of these new features. And the third one is delivering those updates quickly and efficiently to your players, making sure that you're bringing new content as close to them as possible. It might help if you think of live ops as a cycle. It starts with design of a feature or a game, which is then developed. And once ready, it's delivered to the players. Feedback is the force that drives this cycle. Feedback from analytics is the basis for creating new features and fixing problems, developing or making changes, which are then deployed. So I think you get the whole idea of the cycle. The areas that cloud can be most beneficial to your game are delivery and feedback. So if you want to know your players and grow your game, collecting data, listening to feedback, and analyzing the information that you have is absolutely crucial. It builds the foundation for making decisions about what to focus on and when to make changes, like adding new features or fixing problems. And this is where analytics comes in. Analytics allow you to capture information on all aspects of your game, from what players enjoy doing in your game, to how they spend money, to how healthy your servers are, and so on. Games today are generating much more data than ever, so analytics becomes a key part of the live ops process. Collecting information and making sense of it is the driving force behind fixing problems before they actually become a real issue, and coming up with compelling new ideas for your players to keep them engaged. The data can also help you understand where players are actually spending money, what part of the game they find most interesting, or which part they probably struggle most with. And this can help you to tailor messaging and game features to different player cohorts to improve your game and keep your players engaged. In a bit more detail, here are the reasons why you should be using analytics for games. So you can use analytics to create more engagement in your game. It can help you to improve your game design and optimize your gameplay experience by revealing how your game is being played and what to enhance to create a better engagement. As an example, you could use telemetry data of player deaths on a heat map, which could identify opportunities to improve level design. Another very important reason to use analytics is monetization. This obviously depends very much on the business model of your game, whether it is a free-to-play game with microtransactions or it is a one-time purchase game. In any case, you can use data analytics to help you monetize better by understanding things like, are the players that play the most also the ones that are spending the most in-game purchase? Or maybe there are specific experiences in the game that make your players more likely to spend money on in-app purchases. Fraud and player investigation is another great use case for analytics, like detecting anomalies, finding unusual behaviors, maybe even using machine learning to detect possible cheating. I mean, cheating is really disrupting a game experience, and it will ruin the enjoyment for other players and the rest of the community. So you really want to make sure you'll be able to identify this fraudulent behavior quickly and put a stop to it. And last but not least, we have things like performance and error reporting. Analytics can help you to improve your game infrastructure and understand important metrics like CPU utilization and memory utilization. You can better understand your peak usage time so that you know when to scale your infrastructure, or you understand latency, which impacts your player's experience, especially for latency-sensitive games like, for example, first-person shooter. So analyzing error trends can help you identify all of those things, remediate them, and prevent them from happening again in the future. We have developed a game analytics pipeline solution that pulls all your data in one data lake and opens up opportunities to leverage AI and ML services to pull actionable insights from the data. The CloudFormation template automates the setup and provisioning of all necessary services, for easy deployment. For anyone new to CloudFormation, it's a service that helps you model and set up your resources so that you can spend time managing them. That you don't have to spend time managing them and focus more time spending on your game. Before we jump into the next service, just a quick overview of a few happy analytics customers. So, for example, Montreal-based developer Behavior Interactive. They celebrated 12 million players back in 2019. They introduced a state-of-the-art data pipeline using AWS. Jelly Button develops and publishes free-to-play interactive mobile and web games, and they are using Redshift, which is Amazon's data warehouse, and Amazon Kinesis for real-time analytics. Sony Interactive Entertainment built its EVE Fraud system as a big data platform to aggregate transactional activity of users, and this is just to name a few of them. So we've just discussed our analytics pipeline. Now let's look into some of the other services around database and machine learning that allow you to collect data and analyze that feedback. As outlined in our example, monetization is very important, and that includes the economy of your game's community and all the in-game transactions, which a lot of players just love. So understanding how your drops affect that economy is absolutely critical to both maintaining a healthy in-game community as well as managing your financial expectations. It is quite a business when you have to farm Boss X to get Phoenix Peaks as drops and then buy Miracle Water from the in-game store so you can create the Sword of Hacking, so you can farm Boss A to get All Bear Claws, and so on. Okay, so let's just leave it there for now. And all those relationships can start to get really hard to track as they start to cascade. A creative way of solving this problem is mapping out all the items and their relationships to each other. Just ignore the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre for a moment. You can tweak your numbers, and a query can show you the results across your entire economy. You could build your own, or you can look into Amazon Neptune as a way to let AWS manage the infrastructure for you while you manage the game data. Natural language processing, NLP, is a great way to understand critical feedback about players without having to go into every single piece of information. It includes references about language, people, places, and it also can capture the sentiment of the feedback, allowing you to get a great pulse on how your community is feeling about events, about changes, about updates, or the game overall. Recommendation engines help you to analyze what person X is playing and buying, and is making recommendations based on this behavior. However, that doesn't only apply to in-app purchase recommendations. It also applies to other areas of the game, like, for example, quest lines. Hey, looks like you enjoy a stealth approach. Other stealthy players stuck this quest line out to the end, so maybe you should give it a go. Or you can use it to point players towards items that enhance their performance. If you don't fancy building this on your own, use Amazon Personalize, a managed service which handles the hardware configuration and maintaining all the and provides you with a simple API to query against. Back to our LifeOps cycle, though. It's time to take a look on how cloud can actually help you with frequent and automatic deployment, i.e. the deliver part of our LifeOps cycle. One of the biggest challenges is the ability to deliver new features to players as quickly as possible. Not only do new features have to arrive quickly and reliably, they also need to be delivered in a way that optimizes costs and maintains security, in a way that you players don't even notice. Continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD pipelines, with GitOps is an effective way to improve games, fix problems, and deliver new features throughout the development lifecycle as quickly as possible with little to no server downtime. Building CI/CD mechanisms into your process from day one can save you headaches and keep your players engaged from the start, rather than making them wait as you stumble through retrofitting your process. So one thing that really helps speed up deployment is keeping the amount of updated artifacts to a minimum. CI/CD creates intelligence and automation around your build process, so that when you push that build button, you don't just create that build. You have the build exactly where it needs to be, so your players can get at it. And you're only delivering what's actually been changed. One of the main issues we heard from customers about continuous integration for games is usually the size of the game's engine, which is between 6 and 11 gigabytes, depending on the engine you're using. So every time you're making changes, you're moving gigabytes of files just for the engine alone, whereas in reality, there is no need for this, obviously, unless there is an update to the engine. AWS can help to decouple the two. It enables you to only make the changes that happen in your game. Pipeline automation also helps to reduce error from your process, since you're not constantly manually copying files, moving things to multiple destinations, and so forth. So what can CI/CD do for your game? As already mentioned, the first element is to increase the game feature velocity by pushing only certain features as soon as possible to build an immersive and ambitious experience for your players. GitOps allows you to use familiar tools like Git to manage updates and new game features without having to know the internals of Kubernetes. Since deployments are managed through pull requests, any platform nuances that host the game are actually abstracted. Another benefit is streamlined game operations. As with any other type of software, game players expect stability and reliability. You automatically gain an audit trail of who did what and when to your cluster, ensuring stability of the game server host. And since access to game server clusters and other infrastructure is limited, security is vastly improved. So deployment permissions can be managed through AWS IAM if AWS code commit is chosen as your Git provider, aiming for consistent and standardized workflows. So be sure you're building CI/CD in from day one. It can be as simple as having a tool like Jenkins running the build process and depositing your artifacts in the right targets. Or you can consider using AWS Code Pipeline, a fully managed CD service that helps you automate those release pipelines. Back to our LifeOps cycle. LifeOps aims to make the player not have to sit and wait for content. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is watching the download percent meter grow. Don't we all agree? Ideally, they don't even know that the content has changed until they discover it in the game. So your players want to download any updates and use them as fast as possible, which brings Cloudfront into the game. So the closer that you can get the data to your player, the quicker the binary and data downloads are going to be. Amazon Cloudfront is our fast content delivery network, or CDN, ensuring high-speed, secure downloads of game data to your players and automatically finding the endpoint that is closest to them. CDN works by grabbing the data like web application data, video files, game download files, and APIs from one central location, delivering it to the customer globally with low latency and high transfer speed. So it's always quickly available from wherever the data is accessed. Cloudfront is directly connected to the AWS global infrastructure with more than 225 points of presence, mostly edge locations, in over 47 countries and 90 cities, and expanding rapidly. The benefits of Cloudfront are fast, scalable game downloads, routinely delivering multiple terabytes per second peaks globally. Use cases that we come across are, for example, using WebSockets for chat-based functionality, as well as global content collaboration among developers. Security at the edge is a big benefit with Cloudfront, especially as games are targets for distributed denial of service attacks. With Cloudfront, you automatically get AWS Shield Standard that provides default protection for DDoS attacks. And if you use AWS Origins, such as Amazon S3, EC2, or Elastic Load Balancer, you don't have to pay for any data transfer between these services and Cloudfront. It helps and optimizes your costs of your application. And again, a small list of gaming customers that already use Cloudfront. I mean, we've mentioned Epic Games before. Using AWS to deliver Fortnite to more than 200 million players around the globe and perform analysis that helps Epic Games to improve their game. Right, so back to our LifeOps cycle. let's finish with one more service that supports delivery and deployment. And had we started from the very beginning, Amazon EC2 and autoscaling would probably have been one of the first services to actually mention. Absolutely crucial when running live events in your game, you need to have enough service. You could absolutely consider running your own service. Remember though, that when you're working with live ops, you're dealing with huge spikes in usage when you have those kind of events. So if you go down the own your own service path, you'll have to make sure that you have enough service lying around to actually handle the increased demand. And a good number of those servers probably won't be doing much when the event is done. So a cloud-based approach where you can spin servers up and down elastically based on demand can be a great way to provide capacity while saving money at the same time. All right, then, I'll leave you with a summary or maybe even a few tips for what it's worth. First of all, size does not matter. Whether you are epic, butterscotch shenanigans, or somewhere in between, LiveOps will bring huge benefits to your game experience. Secondly, do it early. Avoid the headache of having to retrofit LiveOps into your game. Make sure you plan for it from the very beginning. Think about the tech behind it. As we said, LiveOps begins long before your game is launched. And the sooner you think about the technology aspects behind it, the more fun you're actually going to have building it. And last but not least, there is absolutely no shame in asking for help. If you don't have the time or resources, just use a partner. Come and talk to us, we might know of you. So with that, I want to say a genuine thank you for joining my session today. I really hope that you got a good overview of how the cloud can help you with LiveOps. If you have any questions or would like to chat, I'm around and I've got an amazing team of people attending this event. So please, 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 please be in touch. And thanks for joining.
Marion, thank you very much. What a great set of insights and what an amazing array of services that Amazon has on offer. It's almost like you were some sort of large company with a bunch of people working on this stuff. It's crazy. It's hard to imagine. Thank you so much for presenting that, and thank you to you and the AWS Game Tech team for sponsoring this track today. As I mentioned at the start, no Q&A on this session, so we are going to roll right into our next talk on LiveOps. Marion, thank you so much for joining us, and if anybody has any questions, wants to get any additional insights on AWS Tech, please find Marion in the Meet to Match system, which, by the way, is an amazing business networking tool. If you haven't tapped into it yet, you should.